Hello, folks. My name is Mark. How you guys doing? So you've probably seen this morning in Virginia, there was a shooting at a congressional baseball game. Like basically every year, I guess there's this tradition where all the Democrats in the House and the Republicans in the House have a baseball game, and it's supposed to be like a team building thing to bring everybody together, and that's cool, right? And a 66-year-old man basically opened fire with a rifle, and one of the representatives, which was what was this guy's name? Joseph Scalise from Louisiana, the House Majority Whip, was shot in the hip. And there were reports of other people being shot, but so far I think he was the only actual casualty. Now, it so happens that the shooter in this case happens to be a Bernie supporter, right? And the right wing out there on Reddit and elsewhere, it hasn't even been a day, and they're already kind of twisting this around to make it look like this is an example of the violent left. That leftists are always violent thugs, and now they're shooting people and beware, and and now it's war, that kind of shit. You're already starting to see the violent rhetoric pop up in right wing circles, and I just kind of want to like say out there to everybody that's complete baloney. You know, First off, people on the left, the Bernie supporters, things like that, tend to be pacifists. Okay, these are the people who are anti-war. They're anti, they stand for gun control. Mostly for the most part. They want to outlaw things like the rifle that this guy used, that kind of thing. You know, so it's very disingenuous to even claim that kind of thing. And it just seems that it's funny to me that whenever there's an example of a Trump supporter or a conservative or a Tea Partier going out and like killing someone or shooting somebody or stabbing somebody, that person is always like some kind of crazy deranged nutbag. But whenever someone who is even slightly liberal does the same, they're indicative of every single person who's ever, been a liberal or voted Democrat or a progressive ever. And it's complete fucking bullshit. It's like they refuse to take responsibility for when people on their side of their political persuasion engage in violent acts, but are all too quick to blame, people, Democrats and leftists and shit when, there's examples of violence there. And what's really funny is that because we seem to find way more examples of violence on the right than we do on the left. I mean, this really is the first time that I've ever heard of someone who has clearly left-leaning progressive political ideals engaging in this kind of violence. I've never, like in recent memory, right? In the last 30 years, this is like the first time I've ever seen a shooting coming from somebody from the left in America. It has been known to happen in Europe, right? With the possible exception of like Antifa type people, right? Who go to, but those guys don't go and assassinate people. They tend to like get into fights, at protests, that kind of thing, as a group. They don't like go get a rifle and try to shoot a congressman, right? Or even just try to like kill people. They don't show up with like fucking guns, right? That kind of thing. There's like one example of a guy that had a bike lock at one rally that you'll get a lot from the right wingers and things. They'll use him as an example. See, they're using weapons, right? In the meantime, not that long ago, 4 days ago, there were anti-Sharia law marches in multiple cities around the country. Seattle, Minneapolis, elsewhere, and these people showed up. These are generally right wingers. Anti-Sharia law people, anti-Muslim people. They show up with weapons. Baseball bats, right? In fact, in Texas, there's a place called Richardson, Texas. You know, the group that came to protest a mosque there as part of this anti-Sharia law march showed up with firearms. You know, what kind of message does that give you when you go to a protest with shotguns and rifles and AR-15s and things like that? Is that a peaceful protest? You know, what kind of message are you trying to send there? All right. You know, elsewhere, like in the country, so we had recently in California, a Trump supporter got into an argument with some guy on a bus and just stabbed him to death. You know, a black man stabs him to death, and turns out the guy is a major, you know, big time Trump supporter, right? Recently, like last week, I think it was, there was a Trump supporter who stabbed two people to death on a train in Portland because he was berating this Muslim woman, you know, yelling at her. And these two guys got up to defend this woman, and this guy pulls out a knife and just kills both of them, right? And like a third guy was actually injured and he lived. And it's like, that was big news last week, okay? Was that guy a Bernie supporter? No. All right. How about then in recently, not that long ago, there was a guy named Scott Michael Green who ambushed two cops in Iowa and just shot them dead. You know, big time Trump supporter there. This guy is it was named Scott Michael Green. Had some run-ins with the cops leading up to this. Apparently, he went to a football game and was harassing some black people at this football game with a Confederate flag. Tells you the kind of person this guy is. You know, he blows away two cops. The all the right-wing radio pundits and the assholes on YouTube and Reddit and elsewhere treat him like he's a crazy person. You know, this guy shoots at a congressman. Suddenly, all leftists are fucking bad. It's bullshit. And let's not forget that the Trump people basically threatened to revolt if Trump lost. Do you guys remember that? You know, I mean, the election was only last year, so I'm sure you all remember when it looked like Trump was going to lose, right? When he had, you know, when Hillary was, you know, 5, 10, 15 points ahead of him, and it looked like he was going to lose, right? The Trump supporters were basically threatening to revolt. You know, they were threatening civil war, right? Just go on YouTube, search Trump supporter threatened civil war, and you'll find multiple examples of people at Trump rallies basically saying there's going to be blood in the streets, and one guy going, you know, I'm going to be a patriot, and then like the person asking him is like, well, what does that mean? It means whatever you think it means, you know, shit like that. So, you know, don't even try to claim that that didn't happen, all right? Remember that. These are people that were threatening, you know, to revolt, right? And so, you know, people trying to tell you that, like, yeah, okay, the left is violent. That's bullshit. There is a small segment of people on the left who are violent, you know, mainly, but it seems like on the right, it's much larger, it's more prevalent, and there's a much larger body count. So just don't, you know, let's just keep this all in perspective, all right? You know, if you guys on the right get to claim that every time one of your people flips out and kills somebody, if you get to claim that he's a crazy person, then we get to claim the same thing. Okay, that's all I got. Adios, folks.